Alrighty, let's get started. So, as I said in the morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for attending the first meeting of the Grand Oaks High School Model UN team. Um, this presentation will be going over, the introductions to Model UN, how the team is going to be functioning with you as a member of it, and what the team plans to do moving forward. Um, as a quick introduction for the Secretariat, my name is Alejandro Soto. I'm the Secretary General and founder of the Grand Oaks team. I have 5 years of model unit experience with 12 conferences attended, and I have staffed 4 conferences. I have really been all over the world, or apologies, all over the country when it comes to Model UN. Been to UT Austin, Baylor, U of H, UPenn, and Cornell. I've won Best Delegate 7 times, and I was honored to be the DSG of the Tompkins High School Model UN team. I've been doing this for a really long time, and although I have quite a lot of experience in competition, what I feel really is my calling to Model UN is helping delegates as much as possible to enjoy as much as I have. So that's really my goal as your Secretary General this year, is putting you in the position to where you can be as successful of a delegate as possible, while also just having fun and really, making some meaningful takeaways from your time here. Isabel?
Hi, I'm Isabel. I am the Deputy Secretary General. I don't have as much experience as Alejandro, but I've been doing Model UN for 1 year and debate also for 1 year. I'm a World Schools debater as well. I've attended 2 conferences, one in person and one online virtual that we did over the summer, and a couple regional debate tournaments around here. Probably my biggest conference was the University of Houston we did in February, and a Harvard National Debate Tournament I did in February also. Fun fact, I'm a huge baker and reader, and I play the viola. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And let's turn to Gabby.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Good? Okay. Hi, I'm Gabby Irvin. I'm the secretary for this year, and I also have 1 year of Model UN experience. I joined last year at the beginning of the year. And as well as Isabel, I've also attended 2 conferences, GOMUN at the University of Houston and IDMUN during quarantine online. And a fun fact about me, I like to paint, watch movies, and play guitar. And this year as your secretary, I hope to help you guys with anything you might need regarding Model UN and trying to spread the word out to more people.
Excellent, thank you, Gabby. So, as I said at the beginning, within this presentation, we'll be going over 3 main points. First, what is Model UN? So a general overview of what it is we do here. 2, how does the team work? Know how you will learn and participate. And what are we doing this year? So we'll talk about what we have in store for you in the 2020-21 school year. Apologies, before I move on, I want to recognize Mr. Anderson, who's here with us today. He is taking over for Mr. Engler as our sponsor. Mr. Anderson, if you'd like to say any remarks, you're free to do so.
Good to see y'all. New faces, hopefully. It was nice to hear from Isabel and Gabby. Y'all are, from what I hear, a great leadership team from Alejandro. And I look forward to taking over from Mr. Engler. Like Alejandro pointed out, I was the Model United Nations co-sponsor, myself and another teacher sponsored it at the school that I am coming from in San Antonio, Texas. So this is my first year at Grand Oaks. I helped out with Model UN at MacArthur High School in Northeast ISD for about the last 5.5 years. We started in the middle of a year, so I always have to throw in like a half year there. But based on what I've seen from Alejandro, y'all have a great leadership team. Y'all have a lot of resources. And if you're new to Model UN, Alejandro and his leadership team have y'all covered. So it's great to see y'all in this meeting. And hopefully we'll see y'all's faces soon. If it's not in person, it's more often on Zoom then.
Understood. Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. and as well to the officers and Mr. Anderson. And if at any point in the presentation you want to provide any additional insights or thoughts, feel free to jump on the mic and say so. And as well to all the members, if you have any questions during the presentation, we will accept questions and comments at the end, but during it, you're more than welcome to interject. So let's get started with the first question. What is Model UN? So if you have not been involved in Model UN before, Model UN is a type of academic debate which is focused on 3 key concepts of research, diplomacy, and compromise. Students serve as representatives or delegates of a UN member state, for example, Bolivia, Egypt, Italy, any country that you're familiar with. They participate in a simulated committee with 1 or more set topics. Delegates debate real-world, current, or historical global issues through prepared and impromptu speeches. During this debate, delegates seek to work together with like-minded delegates and compromise to write working papers. If agreed to by the committee, working papers become resolutions, which are recommendations for international law and action. As an example of this, I participated in the World Health Organization at the conference at Rice. In the World Health Organization, I represented Bolivia. So even though, and our topic specifically was reducing the prevalence of malaria in sub-Saharan Africa. So when I was there, I had to both represent the views of Bolivia and also, as I say here, in that Model UN is not acting, I had to develop my own solutions that were both in line with WHO and Bolivian policy in order to best provide solutions for the topic. As it says, Model UN is not acting. All speeches must be original, as well as the solutions that you want to turn into resolutions. A key skill Model UN provides is the ability to independently develop novel solutions to a specific issue based on existing national policy. Although you may not be a diplomat in the future, you may be a policy analyst. You in a company, if you have to, make solutions for the company, you'll need to read up on its contract cases and the various policies that go into that company. In the right, we have a picture that's kind of what delegates look like. This is at the National High School Model UN Conference. If those seats look familiar to you, it's because that picture was actually taken at the United Nations General Assembly Hall. What they're holding are called placards, and you'll hear us refer to those all the time. Placards just have your country name printed on them, and during voting procedures, you usually raise your placard to say yes or raise your placard to say no, and you also raise your placard to be recognized by the chair. More on that in a second. Are there any questions on that before I move on? All righty, wonderful. So we will watch a quick video, talking a bit more about Model UN, how this works. This is actually the Australian EVIT National Finals for Model UN. They have a slightly different way of doing Model UN than in the United States. They have it's much more similar to debate. If you're familiar with debate, it has like a very structured tier-based tournament system. But either way, the main principles are still there. So let me share my computer sound. Let's give us a test. All righty. Can everyone hear that? All righty.
Hi, I'm Laura Johnston. I am the convener of Nationals EVIT 2017. This competition it's intense. It's 7 different debates where you're debating different resolutions on different world topics, and you are doing 2 debates each day. It's for a whole week, and if you make it into the grand finals, then that's even more intense because then you have 3 debates in one day. And by the end, most kids have lost their voice, most kids are sick, most kids are tired, but most kids also come out with a feeling that they are more accomplished and with a feeling that they can achieve more in their lives. And that's what makes this event so special and why we hold it.
I personally found the best part of the week to be the different lectures you get to attend here. So they have different ANU professors who give little talks about diplomacy and interaction generally. that's with current political issues.
Yeah, it's really nice. I really love chatting with all the people that we have here, so kind of the informal debates that we have outside, so whether Australia should be a republic or a monarch, or whether you put the toilet paper over or under, it's just really fun and lovely people.
My favourite part of the week has actually been the note passing aspect of munning. I think not only is it really fun and allows you to engage in the role playing aspect of Model UN, but it's also quite representative of the kind of backroom deals and behind the scenes stuff that happens in a lot of international relations on the global stage.
So there's a common saying at UN that you will find your tribe at UN, and I think that's definitely true. You're guaranteed to make friends with all the public speaking and then also workshops and educational workshops as well.
I'm really enjoying how passionate and inspiring all the people here are, especially when it comes to pretending to be a country. You definitely get a lot of people who are so devoted to the resolution and so devoted to human rights, and you really see the passion in their eyes, and it just makes the whole experience enjoyable.
My favourite part of the week so far has been learning how to combine all the different skills that is speaking to play.
Alrighty, that's enough of that. I just wanted to point out real quick, apologies, oopsies. Let me see here. I just wanted to point out what the committee rooms typically look like. Let's see. So here, this is what's called unmoderated caucus, and I'll talk about this when we're in discussing procedure, but unmoderated caucus is a point in committee in which you get up from your chairs. Usually you see back there, they're kind of like in a lecture hall, so everyone has to be seated during formal debate. When formal debate is suspended, everyone can get up out of their chairs and discuss in small groups called blocks that you see there. This is really the crux of Model UN, is being effective in unmoderated caucus, managing your time with different people and really getting your viewpoint out there. And a lot of the training that you will have at Grand Oaks is how to best maximize your time in unmoderated caucus and make sure that you as a delegation are really standing out in the committee. Alrighty, so let's talk about conferences. Model UN conferences are multi-day tournaments held either at a university or a nearby convention center. Weeks in advance, you are given your delegation and the committee you'll be serving in. For example, you're Italy in the World Health Organization, and the World Health Organization has topics A and B. Prior to attending a conference, you must write a position paper for each topic. A position paper is a 4-paragraph research essay that describes the 1, context and nature of the topic, 2, international action on it and how it has been insufficient, 3, your country's national policies on the topic, and 4th, most importantly, your proposed novel solutions. Position papers are usually 1 page to 1.5 pages, and we will provide pretty extensive training on making sure you have the best position papers possible. It is the easiest way that you can get an award in Model UN, is to just have an amazing Grand Slam position paper. Committees this is physical conferences. Committees run from 6 to 10 hours a day, and they're broken up by meal breaks. At the end of the conference, a closing ceremony is held where individual and team awards are distributed. The first place delegate is called Best Delegate, and it is one of the highest honors you can receive in a high school academic competition, depending, of course, on the in the actual height or prestige of the conference. However, best delegates and people who are actually recognized in a Model UN committee typically consist of only 2 to 4% of the committee, the people who actually ever get awards. So it is a very small select group who actually are recognized. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and because most conferences have transitioned to an online format, GOMUN will solely be attending online conferences for the 2020-21 school year. As someone who's been attending in-person conferences my whole high school career, I can say that this is not actually that big of a deal. I did attend quite a few online conferences during the summer to get myself familiarized with the format and see how I can best translate my knowledge of Model UN in an online format to you guys. And there are a lot of ways that you can game the system and really get an edge that you otherwise couldn't have gotten in a physical in-person community. There's a lot of advantages that you can take advantage of, and we'll be spending a lot of time analyzing them thoroughly. So let's talk about the flow of debate. So this is really the core of model event. This is what happens. Do you have a video? Yes. Okay, so I have a quick video after this kind of showing you rules of procedure in action. This is something that we'll spend plenty of time on. Like, don't worry, you guys will have a whole unit on rules of procedure to really understand this. But I just wanted to give it to you guys, up front so you know what it is you're kind of looking at. So a Model UN committee is divided into 3 phases. At first, you have what's called the commencement of debate. Everyone walks into the room, they all sit down, or in this case, you log on to Zoom. The chair calls the committee to order, and the chair introduces himself. Now, the chair is just a person, usually it's a staffer, whether it be a college student or a high school student. They are the ones who are the presiding officer over the committee. That means is that they rule over specific procedural motions. They, keep debate in order, and they basically just keep the committee chugging. Chair introduces themselves. They probably have a million recognitions, and then okay, we start roll call. Roll call is when a member of the dais, usually the chair, but it can be someone else, usually an assistant to the chair, called a deputy chair or a co-chair. They will read out the names of every delegation present in the committee. So, if you were in GA plenary with all 193 member states, you would be in a very long roll call because they'd be calling every single member. During roll call, you can say 2 things. You say present or present and voting. So, for example, if I'm calling on Italy, say, Italy, the delegate of Italy is present. If I say present, that means that I, as a delegate, am allowing myself to abstain on substantive votes. Substantive votes being just resolutions, meaning that when we get to resolutions, I can vote neither for nor against it. I can kind of opt out from stating my position on it. That's called an abstention. And abstentions are very valuable in terms of staying in policy because there are going to be some resolutions that you face that, okay, they have some language that you agree with, but there's stuff that you really don't agree with. So in those cases, an abstention is really, really good, and it reflects that you have a very nuanced understanding of your national policy. As opposed to this, you can have present or present in voting. So if I said Italy is present in voting, in that case, I am not allowing myself to abstain on substantive motions. I have to vote yes or no. In those cases, you really should never say present in voting unless you are in the Security Council. If you're not familiar with the Security Council, it is an organ of the United Nations that focuses on promoting international security and peacekeeping. It has 5 members with veto power who were the winners of World War II: the United States, France, Germany, People's Republic of China, and the Russian Federation. Those countries are able to, just by saying no, are able to strike down any resolution that the Security Council is attempting to pass. By having, those nations are usually required to be present in voting unless allowed to otherwise. But aside from that, you should really never say present in voting. It sounds like it's a cooler thing to say present in voting because it's a more forceful thing, but really present means that you're actually thinking about the situation a lot more than present in voting. After that, you have declaration of majorities. Usually they say, okay, there are 10 people. The simple majority will be set at 6, meaning that motions that require a simple majority are passed with just 6 people, and a supermajority will be set at 7. After that, you set the agenda. Usually, setting the agenda isn't necessary if you have more than, if you only have one topic, so it's just that topic that you debate. However, if you have more than one topic, you guys will vote on which one to do first. For example, in WHO, if I'm debating malaria as topic A and vaccines as topic B, you might vote to do vaccines first instead of malaria, or malaria instead of vaccines. We'll talk more about that later. Main debate is where you'll spend 80% of the time of the committee. It is comprised of the speakers list, moderated caucus, and unmoderated caucus. Speakers list and moderated caucus are called formal debate. What that means is that when they're ongoing, everyone is in their chairs. You're not allowed to talk unless you're recognized by the chair, and you have to abide by all the procedural mechanisms involved. The speakers list is exactly what it sounds like. It's a list of speakers. You raise your placard, you get put on the speakers list, and if you've already spoken and you go back to your chair, you send a note up to the dais, which is just a little piece of paper that you send up there, stating that you would like to be re-added to the speakers list. Yielding in the speakers list means that when you're finished with your speech, you say the delegate yields their time to the chair, or that they yield their remaining time to another delegate. usually just yield your time to the chair. Now, moderated caucus, this, unlike speakers list, which is just a list of speakers that can talk about really anything, the moderated caucus is special because it focuses on a subtopic of whatever you're talking about. When you motion for a moderated caucus, you have to specify the time limit and its subtopic. For example, motion to set a moderated caucus of 10 minutes with 1 minute speaking time to discuss the issue of vaccines, a vaccine for malaria. That would be a subtopic of the malaria topic. So it'd be perfectly valid, and the 10-1 ratio is very common when it comes to moderated caucuses. You have 10 speakers, all of which get 1 minute and have to talk about the subtopic that you specified. Unmoderated caucus is where you will probably spend like 30 to 40% of the committee. In unmoderated caucus, everything is suspended for the time limit, usually like 20 minutes. You guys get up and you talk amongst yourselves. During that time, you are crafting working papers. You are finding delegates that, apologies, are aligned with your positions. You are starting to write working papers, which you'll get a lot of training to do. And you'll also, in a moderated caucus, you can really get into pretty heated debate with other delegates. So that's where a lot of our Unit 5 stuff comes in. It's understanding how to make good counter arguments and a logical line of reasoning very quickly. Aside from, on the third phase is resolutions and adjournment. So this is near the end of the committee. You begin resolution debating procedures, which usually consists of either a POI session or pro-con speeches. POI sessions means point of information. Point of information is you're asking a question. So in a POI session, what happens is that the people who wrote the resolution go up in front of the room and they answer questions about it. It's like a Q&A session, fairly straightforward. Pro-con speeches are usually 2 for, 2 against. What happens is that the chair recognizes 2 speakers to speak in favor of the resolution passing and 2 speakers to speak against the resolution passing. Those delegates, they go up, they speak, and then everyone sits down, and then they vote. Friendly, unfriendly amendments, those happen, but basically never. So we will talk about them very briefly, but they're not very important. Finally, resolution voting, final remarks, and adjournment. In resolution voting, delegates have to pass the resolution by a simple majority, unless you are in the Security Council, in which a no vote from any of the P5 will result in an immediate failing of the resolution. If a resolution is passed, it is adopted by the committee, and it comes from being called a draft resolution to a resolution. At the end, the chair gives some final remarks, and the committee is adjourned. On the right there, you have all the points and motions that you can make as a delegate. You will, study this pretty intensively in your rules of procedure unit, and really understanding how you can use all of this to your advantage. Because even though most of the time other delegates can handle procedure for you, you really just need to be focused on on your speeches and writing your resolutions. I highly, highly recommend that you have a very strong understanding of rules of procedure. It lets you correct the chair if they ever screw up, which sadly they tend to do quite a lot. And also you're able to have a more prominent role in the committee. People hear you, they recognize you as someone who's active in the committee and are more likely to be, to want to talk to you and actually get to know you and work together on a working paper. Are there any questions when it comes to this? I know I just said a lot of things, so if there are any questions, let me know. All right.
I just wanted to say for all the new delegates, yes, it looks like a lot, but after you start practicing and going to committees and even online conferences and mock conferences, you start getting into the routine where you see how it works out. So like Alejandro was saying, you become more prominent in these conferences. So it is a lot, but you get used to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I actually kind of flew over my head because I see this all the time. It's like no big deal for me. However, for novice delegates, I do remember when I entered in 9th grade, it is kind of intimidating. Trust me, this stuff becomes second nature. It really does. You see it all the time. Delegates are motioning and making points and following all these procedures. It's fairly standard when it comes to the United States, so it really gets a lot easier. So we are going to watch another quick video. This one, I really advise that you guys watch this whole thing. It's fairly old, actually. I believe it's from 2009, but the procedures that they use are actually still fairly relevant. Fun fact, I've been showing this video since I was elected as an officer in sophomore year, and at this point, I actually know that they actually do make some procedural errors, which I'll be calling out during it.
Just forum delegates. All delegates, please take their seats. We'll begin roll call.
Delegates who identify themselves as present and voting are not permitted to abstain on any substantive vote while in the session of the committee. These delegates must vote strictly in favor or in opposition to any motion before the committee. Those delegates who identify themselves as present may abstain from voting.
Belgium.
Like I mentioned before, and here the chair, she gavelled in the session, and now she's going around the table.
Present and voting. China.
Present and voting.
France.
Present and voting.
Croatia.
Present.
Japan.
Present and voting.
Russia.
Present and voting.
Uganda.
Present and voting.
The United Kingdom.
Present and voting.
United States of America.
Present and voting.
And Vietnam. Not here. So reminder to the committee, seeing as there are only 9 delegates here, the simple majority will be at 5 delegates, whereas the 2/3 majority will be set at 6.
Apologies for being late. There was a massive holdup at Tin Horns.
Late delegate, please send a note to the dais stating your presence and your voting position. You will not be acknowledged in the substantive voting procedure if the dais has not recorded your attendance.
Don't be late. I will not allow you to be late to committee. Also, if you may have noticed, there are a lot of delegates present in voting. Present in voting is the default. I don't know why. I really don't understand why president voting is the default. I guess everyone likes to. It's like everyone thinks that they're super cool for saying that they're president voting. You're not. Say present.
Thank you, delegate from Vietnam. As there are now 10 delegates present, so the majority will be set at 6 delegates, and 2/3 majority will be set at 7. Are there any points of motion on the floor at this time? Seeing none, the first order of business for the committee is to set the main speakers list. Is there a motion to set the speaking time? Yes, I'll get from you.
The chair went out of order here. You're actually supposed to set the agenda first, and then you open the speakers list. So just keep that in mind. Oh, whoops. Where was I? You're like
main speakers list.
Here.
Is there a motion to set the speaking time? Yes, I'll get from the United States.
The United States motions to set speaking time of 90 seconds.
Thank you, delegate. The speaking time is set to 90 seconds. Those wishing to be placed on the speakers list, please raise your placards now.
Delegates are reminded that if the main speakers list is exhausted, the conference will adjourn. If delegates want to add themselves to the speakers list, please send a note up to the dais.
Are there any points or motions on the floor at this time? Yes, I'll get from the United Kingdom.
UK motions to move to debate topic A, the situation in Chechnya.
That motion is in order. Are there 2 speakers for and against? Those wishing to speak for, please raise your placards now. United Kingdom and France. United Kingdom, because you were the first to propose the motion, you may be the first speaker. All those wishing to speak against, please raise your placards. China and Russia. The chair now recognizes the delegate from the United Kingdom for 90 seconds.
The UK feels that the situation in Chechnya merits the attention of the Security Council because it is an issue of international importance and unrest. It threatens the surrounding nations. The UK yields its time to the chair.
Thank you, delegate.
this poor girl. She's kind of like reading off a piece of paper, which you'll very rarely do in Model UN. You will most likely only have one prepared speech, which is your very first speakers list speech, unless you're following the Puerto Rican method, which we'll talk about later down the line. Really, if you're making these kinds of speeches, you want to say it as confidently as possible, and just really project your voice into the committee. So if you're making her point, you say, the delegate of the United Kingdom believes that this topic deserves the attention of the committee, and that this committee would benefit greatly with regards to its promotion of international security by addressing this topic. Thank you. quick, simple, to the point, and not really mincing your words very much. In here, Russia and China are actually speaking against the topic being adopted, being the situation in Chechnya. They're doing it on the basis of sovereignty, which I personally don't agree with, but there are points to be made in favor of it. So I think you guys get this. We'll fast forward a bit.
Go behind them. We must address the issue in order to assist Russia with their goals and stabilize the region. France yields its time to the chair.
Delegate from China, you may now have the floor.
The delegate from China wishes to reaffirm Russia's position that the topic should not and cannot be addressed. The situation in Chechnya does not merit the attention of this council, and a resolution to the issue must be left to the Russian Federation with no interference from this committee.
Is there a motion on the floor to close debate? Belgium, the delegate, you have the floor.
Belgium moves for the closure of debate.
That motion is in order. All those in favor of closing debate, please raise your placards now. That motion is clearly passes. Are there any other points of motion on the floor at this time? Yes, delegate from the United States. On what point or motion do you rise?
Point of personal privilege. It's fairly warm in this room. Is it possible to turn off the air conditioning?
Certainly.
Points of personal privilege. Should delegate feel any discomfort which hinders their participation in committee, a delegate may rise to a point of personal privilege. Points of order. If a delegate feels that the dais has erred in the parliamentary proceedings, he or she may rise in the point of order. The dais will then rule on the point in regards with the rules and procedures. Points of parliamentary inquiry. To ask for clarification regarding rules and procedure.
Quick word on this. Point of personal privilege is how you ask to use the restroom. So point of personal privilege, may I use the restroom? That's like the most common usage of it. I think that's enough that we need to watch that. This presentation will be put onto the Google Drive. So if you want to watch the video in its entirety, it's called Mock Model UN, the movie. I do recommend that you watch the whole thing. It's kind of slow because it's kind of showing you the procedure of it. It's not actually showing you the debate portion of Model UN, just kind of like the stuff that you see on paper. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to talk a bit about how the team works. So as a quick overview, the two main documents that we're concerned about when it comes to the team is the GOMUN Constitution and the GOMUN Curriculum. The GOMUN Constitution is the binding document of the organization. It prescribes how we conduct business, for example, the meetings, the secretariat and its elections, membership, and community engagement. The Constitution is made public on the Grand Oaks Model UN Drive. And we may have a signing session in which all delegates read and affirm the Constitution. As well, the GOMUN curriculum prescribes the education guidelines for all GOMUN delegates. The curriculum is modeled off of a one semester AP course, and it focuses on developing 4 key concepts: research, writing, public speaking, and debate. If you look on the graphic on the right, those are the three of 5 units that we will be going over in Model UN for the first semester. Each of the colors represent a different key concept. So blue is research, purple is writing, green is public speaking, and red is debate. In this case, red 1 and 2 being, let me read that a bit better, policy and its portrayal and counter arguments and lines of reasoning. In that case, we'll be talking about how to best structure your arguments, how to convey them in a clear and logical manner. And in Unit 2, that's the other part of debate, which is understanding the rules of procedure and using it to your advantage. Delegates will regularly attend virtual meetings on Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4:30, as we're doing right now. Due to the time constraints prior to the fall conferences, homework and progress checks will be administered to fill in gaps in learning. Now, before you freak out, we made a lot of stipulations regarding this. Grades are not going to be taken on any of the homework or progress checks. Delegates will receive feedback for their assignments, and there will be no penalty for doing poorly. The only thing that can happen to you is that you can receive recognition for scoring highly on your progress checks. What I mean by progress checks, At the end of a certain period, so it's usually going to be 1 to 2 weeks, we're going to administer the progress check for the unit. As you can see on the bottom right, we have the progress checks 3, 4, and 5. Progress check 3 is in 2 parts. They're all in 2 parts. The first one is writing a position paper, and the second one is writing a working paper. Progress check 4 is going to be a mock conference and also giving 2 speeches. One prepared and one impromptu. So, very clearly delineated from the specific units. And Unit 5, the Progress Check 5, is also a mock conference again. You will also be writing a group resolution, which I found to be very useful in the past because delegates, they tend to have a lot of problems when it comes to resolutions. They're difficult to write. Like, trust me, even now with my experience, it's still kind of difficult to wrap your head around how to write resolutions. So this year we will be giving you guys a lot of training regarding how to write resolutions. Are there any questions or concerns about this that I can address?
You have units 3, 4, and 5. What are units 1 and 2?
Good question. The first unit is Principles of Model UN, which basically just goes over all 4 of the key concepts as an overview basis. And the second unit is Rules of Procedure. So that is like the bare bones, understanding how the structure and the flow of debate of Model UN work. After that is when we really get into the good stuff, which is units 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, got it.
So let's talk about GOMUN 2020 and 2021. I will actually exit out of the presentation here because we are going to turn to our calendar. So can everyone see the calendar? Wonderful. So this calendar, I believe, yeah, it's already been corrected. There's nothing that needs to be done. Oh yeah, slight correction. I need to make this. I'm just going to be bodging something down. In this case, we will not be administering, this will actually be moved down, so it'll be moved down to the 14th. Basically, all of this is going to be moved down one. So in next week, in the week after the next, we will be administering 1.1 homework, which will be 2 SAQs on the UN structure, just 3 sentences, 3 sentences each, so 6 sentences in total regarding the structure of the UN, and also the payment will be due. Right now, we believe the membership fee will be either 35 or 40. I'll crunch the numbers again on that. Basically, just like we just got the final estimates from our fall conferences. So we'll get it back to you on that, but this is probably gonna be 35 to 40. After that, another one will be an LAQ on NGOs and UN actions, just a short essay that you need to write on it. And finally, the Unit 1 progress check. The Unit 1 progress check will be just a 10-question short responses and 1 free response, which will be a topic analysis. We'll talk about topic analyses, of course, during the meetings. After that, you'll have 2.2, apologies, 2.2, which will be 2 SAQs on procedural scenarios. We'll be asking you, for example, if you are in a moderated caucus session and there are this many motions that are on the floor, which ones will be considered first, which is called the order of disruptiveness in a motion. We may also ask you if a resolution is on the floor which you only agree with a certain part of, what motion can you invoke that allows you to circumvent this? Well, I'm not telling you right now, it's going to be the answer to the question, but that's something you need to be finding out. In October, we're going to continue with education. We're going to be entering units 3 and 4. Again, all that we're doing is LAQs, SAQs, small writings that you're doing at that are being due on Mondays. Our 7th meeting will be combined. It'll be a progress check and the 3.1 introduction. We'll have the Unit 3 progress check at the end, and then we'll be entering the 10th and 11th meetings, which will actually be held jointly on Wednesdays and Thursdays for 4.1 and 4.2. The reason why I'm stacking meetings is because of this. In November is when we get hit by all of our fall conferences. We have signed up for 3. BEAR-MUN, which is held by the University of California, Berkeley, Oxford-MUN, held by the University of Oxford, and the Montreal GOMUN conference, which is held by a Toronto NGO. These conferences are big deals. They are very prominent conferences in not just the United States, but in the world. Oxford MUN in particular attracts some 1,000 plus delegates. Montreal MUN is the biggest conference in Canada, which I believe attracts some 2,500 delegates. And the University of California, Berkeley, so Behrman, I believe they also attract around 1,500 to 1,750 delegates. So these are very big deal conferences. There are a lot more. If you guys are joining us from last year, this is a much bigger deal than GOMUN. So there's a reason why I'm preparing you guys so much, is because we're really raising the stakes. And of course, you guys might seem a bit overwhelmed that I'm taking you to such a big stakes right away. As always, I do not expect you to win at any of these. It'd be great if you did. And that's really great if you guys win. But really, my main thing is that you guys walk away feeling satisfied, that you put in as much work as you could, and you really gained a meaningful experience from the conference. Are there any questions regarding this?
I have a question.
Yes.
So earlier you mentioned the Unit 2 progress check, and you went over what the progress check was for all the other units, but you never clarified what the Unit 2 progress check was.
Nice check. The progress check number 2 is actually a special mock conference. In this case, what we do is that we skip all the non-procedural portions, kind of like what they do in the video, where they don't do unmoderated caucus, they don't do moderated caucus. You motion for them, but then we just don't do them. And we just pretend that we zoom past that time. Basically, what that's going to be teaching you is that you're basically just doing procedure the whole time. And you'll be evaluated by myself, the other officers, and we may call in some other people from other teams to assist us in the grading process. All right, and as always, once you guys are registered for Model UN, we will provide you with plenty of information when it comes to these 3 conferences. December, there's not going to be anything. We might host a winter social. You guys will be off the hook in that case. And in January, there's a lot to talk about here, but something you will not notice is homework. We will no longer be administering homework nor progress checks in the 2nd semester. Why? It's intended to be a 1-semester course. We may have, I'm considering that we may have a CBE for returning members, that if they really know what they're doing, if they know their stuff, they don't want to deal with all this, they can CBE out of the educational content, and they only need to participate in the progress checks. But aside from that, you guys will be doing all the content until January. So in January, we see a lot of big conferences: Columbia, Harvard, and ILMUNC. ILMUNC is hosted by the University of Pennsylvania. That's the one that I attended last year, or actually, apologies, this year in February, last semester. I had a great time. ILMUNC was awesome. It was the hardest conference I've ever been to. It was really, really taxing. It really, stretched my abilities as a debater and as a delegate. And not only that, but my committee was actually bilingual. So I was speaking both in English and in Spanish. It was quite the ride. As for the other conferences, we have signed up for Harvard and Yale, and we're still waiting to see what Columbia is going to do. Harvard, if it comes down to it, whether it's Yale or Harvard, it's going to be Harvard. The Harvard Model UN conference is very special, one, because it is notoriously cutthroat, and the other two is because it is very big. It is, if I remember correctly, it is the largest, it's either the 2nd or the 1st largest high school Model UN conference in the world. I believe they peaked at some 3,000 delegates. So these are massive, massive conferences that they hold. Obviously, the virtual one will be a bit smaller, but still keep that in mind. It's going to be huge. They have delegates from all across the world. For example, in ILMUNC, even though it wasn't Harvard, we still had delegates from Europe. We had delegates from Africa, from Asia, delegates from Singapore, and a lot of delegates from Latin America. So it is definitely an international experience. As well, for Harvard, we have signed up mainly for General Assembly spots. apologies, not General Assemblies, but what are called specialized committee slots. Those are a bit smaller than the General Assemblies because they're usually, General Assemblies are like 100 people per room. I think that's nonsense. You can't really have good Model UN there. Smaller rooms that are from 20 to 40 people is when you can have really substantive debate, and I'm trying to get you guys signed up to those as much as possible. Are there any questions when it comes to this?
For the calendar for November, could you go back to that? It looks like the Montreal and Oxford conferences are overlapping on the 21st and 22nd. Could you explain that?
Yes, Oxford MUN is, apologies, lost my train of thought. Oxford MUN is very short. It's only 5 minutes, 5 hours in the morning. So it is possible that once Montreal releases their schedule, we may be able to do like delegates that have already been for Oxford, which I believe is myself, Isabel, and Catherine. Myself being in the EUCJ and Catherine being in press. We may be able to attend both conferences. However, for everyone else, you guys are just be sticking with Montreal. And if you guys can attend Oxford as an observer, I highly recommend you do.
Okay, sounds good.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so yeah, we just have 9 minutes left. So I just wanted to quickly go over the curriculum again. This again provides you guys. Again, these are the 4 key concepts I will be going over, and these are the sub-concepts that we will be honing in on. In research, we want you guys to understand the UN and its international NGO system. We want you to comprehend and analyze UN Secretariat reports and resolutions. And 3, draw conclusions from sets of primary and secondary documents. For third, in writing, 1, use organization and critical thinking to write a position paper. 2, use legal English and detailed descriptions to write a working paper. And 3, develop novel solutions to international issues. Public speaking, make compelling standalone prepared speeches to large groups. And 2, develop and deliver standalone and responding impromptu speeches, both to large and small groups. And third, finally, is understand and use either all or components of the Puerto Rican method. To very oversimplify what the Puerto Rican method is instead of just having one prepared speech and you impromptu most of them, you actually write nearly all of the speeches that you will ever give in committee and you pre-write them for every single topic. You're allowed to do this because conferences only have pre-writing restrictions against working papers. They do not have any pre-writing restrictions when it comes to speeches. So you can pre-write as many as you want. As well, you can get away with pre-writing working papers as long as you don't write them using working paper language and you just kind of write them as bullet points instead of actual like written out working papers. Again, this is kind of a more advanced topic, but if you guys want to feel more secure going to conference, feeling that you have actually like something substantive that you can like refer to in your impromptu speeches, we'll definitely talk about that. And finally, debate. 1 is articulate national policy and positions in a favorable light. This is really important. You don't want to end up as like the delegate of China and being like, oh yeah, our Uyghur thing ain't that great. Like, no, you don't want to say that. You want to say that the Uyghurs have been associated with radical Islamic terrorism for years, and since the 80s, the People's Republic of China has ensured that the Uyghur population is properly educated and is not involved in domestic terrorism. That is the CCP line. Obviously, I don't believe that, but that is what I, as a delegate of the People's Republic of China, would need to say. And you need to be able to do that on the fly. 2, develop effective counter-arguments. So for example, again, being kind of the devil's advocate as a delegate of China, if people are telling me like, oh, what evidence, or rather like, why do you think that Uyghurs are dangerous? I need to know that there was violence in the Xinjiang region in around the 1970s and 80s involving the Uyghur minority. And with that, I would need to make a justification for that, saying that, we've re-educated them since, we've ensured that their population is properly controlled and they have not had terrorism since. It's kind of a disingenuous argument, but it's the Chinese argument. Finally, 3, understand USA and Thyman rules and procedures. There are more than one ways of doing Model UN. You can do it in the US procedure, which is called UNA USA, which is what I talked about already and what we've shown you. Thyman is slightly different. The main thing that characterizes it is that you actually write your resolutions ahead of time. And what you do is you lobby for them at the beginning of committee. So there's a certain chunk of time that's allocated at the beginning of the committee in which you are just lobbying with other delegates, talking with them, and getting your working paper to the top, and actually getting people to vote in favor of them. Yeah, my lights are kind of spazzing out. And finally, use the rules. This isn't going. And finally, the fourth is use the rules of procedure to your delegation's advantage. Again, we'll talk, this is a bit more of a complex topic, but we'll talk about it as we go in. So that was a good 55 minutes of just me talking. And if there are any questions at this time, please feel free to jump on or just have any comments that you'd like to say.
This is a question, but to all like newcomer delegates, just remember that you don't have to, like you saw the calendar already and it looked pretty intimidating with all the conferences. Well, you don't actually have to go to every single conference. You just have to attend a few and you're good. So don't like feel stressed out by that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And I'll always take an opportunity to trash debate. We only need to, delegates will only need to attend one fall conference that is both online, and I'll also accept IDM UN conferences to fulfill that. I only, highly recommend that you attend the UC Berkeley and the Montreal conferences, but aside from that, you only need to attend one.
Again, we have meetings every Wednesday. So far, we've planned from 3:30 to 4:30. And like my sister said, it's one conference for the fall semester, so don't need to stress out about that. And we're going to try to be very flexible with all the homework assignments because we know you're busy. We tried to spread it out, sort of like the spring semester of COVID, where you have like one assignment. So you don't have to stress out about that. We're going to try to be flexible with your other schedules too.
Yes, if you find yourself in a position where you're just really, really busy and you can't submit an assignment for whatever case, do let me know. Like, we're not, again, we're not grading you. We don't need grades in the grade book. That's not a concern of ours. We just want you guys to be as prepared as possible for the conferences that you attend. So if there's any other way that we can do that that doesn't involve you submitting the homework, we will gladly sit down with you and talk you through it.
Alejandro, there's a question in the chat. Can you send this PowerPoint in Remind or through email somehow?
Absolutely. This presentation will be in the GOMUN Drive, and I'll also, this recording as well as the Drive, apologies, as well as the presentation will be sent out.
Awesome.
Okay, and also I want to clarify to other new delegates that we also have a Discord channel, which we need you to join if you haven't already. And we send out a lot of updates on there, and you can communicate with us there better through the Remind. Yeah. So if you haven't already, make a Discord account and then talk to Alejandro and he could give you the link, or talk to any of the officers.
Yes. So basically the way it works in terms of communication for Model UN, most of our operations go on Discord. We hold a lot of like pre-conference prep sessions. We're like, oh guys, GOMUN is coming up. If you guys want to talk about that, or if you want me to look over your position paper, I'll be available on Fridays from 4 to 5 p.m. I'll have like office hours set up during that time where you can just hop on the voice channel, talk to me, talk with Isabel and talk with Gabby, what have you, so we can get you prepared as much as possible. That's also where we just talk and I share with you guys a lot of resources that I come across. Remind is more the landing page for anyone who's interested, so they can see everything, and if they register, then they migrate. Wonderful. Well, I believe that is up for our time. So I'm going to cut the recording.